Today I'm going to talk about Greek philosophy, and this is the video part 1. This time I'm giving up to talking about like the traditional way. We were first introduced to Socrates, then his student Plato, and Plato's student blah blah blah. No, not going to try. Today we'll just start with a story. So a person just travel back through time and go to ancient Greek, and he want to show that he was like a literary person. So what is the first quality he should have? Okay, I wait long enough. So the first quality is be able to talk, and you need to be able to argue with other people in a very high level way. If you can only talk about like story, peasants, you are going to lose it. Because in ancient Greek, they will ask you questions that directly affect your soul. Like, what is the smallest things in the world? What's the biggest things in the world? Who are you? Where do you come from? Blah 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 blah. So, when there was people, there will be people fighting around. If there were questions, there are people coming up to solve it. So first, let's try out my new tools.
Tails.
His name is called Tails. So let's start with the first question. What's the word formula? Well, he believed that everything around this world is formed by water. Since he was kind of, born in a rich family, so he kind of traveled around the world, and when he get to Egypt, he see the beautiful narrow Nile River. And after the Nile River flooded and the water get away, he go after the water leave, and he found that inside the silt there are small worm and plants. So he believed that water created life. He said that, well, I cannot say his original sentence in English, but just translate into normal language, it will be everything was built of water. So after he noticed, he tell it to his friend, and so after Tails, we come with
Aristotle.
After Tails, we come to Aristotle, and then the Western philosophy kind of go in two paths. One was called the natural philosophy, and the other was called the
Metaphysics.
And later, the natural philosophies become the science we know now. So natural philosophy is just a way of calling it. It had been lasted for 2,000 years. And then when people talk about famous person who give very great contribution, they come up with the idea of science and scientists. Just a side note, in Newton's time, there haven't come the idea of science. So if you go back in time and call Newton a great scientist, well, he will probably not understand it. Okay, so haven't you realized this? Just because Tails had gone to the Nile River and just look at it, it create a side effect of subject that fail many students on the test. Okay, let's go back to the word. So because he said that everything was built by water, it come out with the question of, the discussion, what is the smallest things on earth? And suddenly, just a bunch of people come out. Well, there are actually four school I want to talk about. So the school with the star with Thesis, who think that everything was built by water, is called actually they don't read it for me. So it's called Millicent School. I try my best. It's probably wrong pronunciation. And the other one was the Alice School. Their idea speak in Mandarin will be 外物的本源是存在的， But in English, I actually do not really find it since I learned philosophy in Mandarin. Sometimes when you read their thought, you feel like, yeah, it's all word. You put it away, I understand it, you put it together, I have no idea what just happened. 八门尼德, also known as English, the Paromenides. And another school, which is created by a person, Arguingin. Well, this school is called Arguingin, and we can know that its founder is probably the Arguingins, who believed that everything was like number. How should I say it? So basically, the Arguingins start a group of mathematicians called the Arguingins, who worship number and live like monks. So maybe I feel like if you consider this as a religion, then their god will be numbers. Well, another school will be the Ephesus school. Side note, Ephesus is actually a small city in ancient Greek. And the people who kind of is the founder of this will be the Heraclitus. And because he kind of have depression, so he was also known as the crying philosopher. His theory is everything is constantly changing and opposite things are identical, so that everything is and is not at the same time. Heraclitus is kind of the person who held extreme view that lead to logical incoherence, and also a reason why I believe he have depression. Okay, all those theories up there, no matter you understand it or not, because I don't understand it. Like what I say, I understand each word, but if you put it together, I have no idea what just happened. But we don't need to care about it. It's just, great person arguing in great way. It's just like me going on the street and arguing with another person. It was like very low argument, but great people, clever people, they argue in a very high way and it create philosophy. So this has been also seen as the start of Western philosophy. Anyway, alright, then we come a person called Leucippus. Well, he is one of the person who believed that the atom was the start of everything. Well, you probably do not know him, but you definitely know he had a student called Democritus. And you probably see Democritus in your high school chemistry class. And he has been credited as the first to come out with atom as the fundamental unit of matter. Even though his teacher have that idea kind of, beforehand. So for Democritus, he believed like the things that build everything is atom and nothing. Maybe it's not called nothing life, okay. So in his mind, he believed everything can be, cut. And if you cut to the extreme and you cannot cut it anymore, then that thing was atom. And atom, they just move in nothingness. And then when they come together, they build everything. So the only difference between this and modern science is we know that atom can be cut into neutron, proton, electron. Democritus has amazing skill of talking. So just a fun fact is that he was very rich, and because he used the money, in a very squander way, so he been called onto the court. And on the court, he was like having a argument with the other person, and at last he do not get any punishment, and people said he have a good tongue. Okay, so anyway, if you said he was the most amazing person, how always said this, the argument queen king in Greeks? Well, not really, because the argument king should be Aristotle. So first, he have a very strong background. His teachers is called Socrates, who was born in Athens in 417 BC and was often credited as one of the founder of Western philosophy. And Socrates have a student called Plato, and he was also very famous. First, between 428 BC and 423 BC, is the founder of the academic in Athens, the first institution of higher learning in Western world. And then Aristotle, student of Plato, lived between 384 BC and 322 BC. He joined Plato's academic in 18 years old and stayed there until 27, and he wrote his series about the universal. So basically, a guy who are perfect, at least in my mind, perfect. And then he also have a student, and that student was the Alexander the Great, who kind of conquered 3 continents. Well, every part of 3 continents. So this third person kind of, create a big store in ancient Greek, especially Aristotle in the philosophy world. So one of the very amazing sentence I like from him is, I can't say it in the way he said it, but I will say it in a normal way. It was called, I love my teacher, but I love truth more. So basically, in my mind, this must be the first person in history who said, teacher, you know nothing, in such a high level way. And things, when he was talking about philosophy, he liked to walk while he was talking. Just an interesting way to see it, that you need to exercise while you are learning, which is one of the things I do not suggest our school to do. I like my chair better. No offense. So what do Aristotle think of this problem? Well, before that, everybody have different idea about what the world is created of. Some says soil, some says water, some says fire, some says it's gas. So he kind of bring everything here and add some material in it and create his own theory. He believed that gas and fire, those weigh less, so they kind of go above the ground to the sky and below the moon, and then soil and water is heavy, so they kind of go down to the ground. And ether, also called quantum physics, is a material that fills the region of the universe above the terrestrial sphere. And the concept of ether is used in several theories to explain several natural phenomena, such as the traveling of light and gravity. So he believed that universe exists only in things never apart, which is kind of different from his teacher theory. Even though this theory seems like, so fake in modern days. But in that time, it was definitely the mainstream. If this theory go with another very famous theory, it creates a thing called geocentric theory. We have finished talking about the first question, what's the smallest things on Earth? Now we're going to talk about what's the biggest things in this world. Okay, so if we extend from this problem, we get to a very big conflict called the geocentric theory, which in part, in the history of science, that people argue a lot about. So nowadays, when we see this theory, we definitely know that do not make sense. Sun is the center of the solar system. To talk about geocentric, we need to go back a lot in past. We will talk about first the Pythagoras, which we mentioned before. He created the philosophy and have a lot of people in it, and we know that he believed that everything's made up by number. So he actually do not see the surface, like the material side. He go inside and have abstract thought. So as the founder of like mathematicians, he created many series. One was the triangle, the square of one side plus the square of the other short side equal the square of the long side, and also the golden ratio. Actually, how do you say the triangle theory? I always call it the triangle theory, and in Mandarin we call it the 勾股定律. But oh my gosh, in English it's called the Pythagorean theory. It's just his name right there. Side note, for the Pythagorean theory, it actually started the first math crisis. Maybe I should not use Chinese direct translation because I have a feeling that this is the wrong word. Let me Google the right English word. The first mathematical crisis. So one day, the Pythagorean was like trying to teach his student. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And suddenly there was student coming out and ask a question. What if this side was 1 and this side was also 1? What could be the third side? And remember, in that time, in ancient Greek, there was no such idea of irrational number. So suddenly this question touched his blind side, and his perfect self status was going to crash in a moment. No, if there are problems, he must solve it. So after that, he solved the student who come out with the problem, and Pythagorean theory had become the trigger to start the first mathematical crisis. Well, this is probably that in China your teacher teach you do not ask stupid questions and do not gainsay your teacher. Oh, well, that's only a joke. So, and this whole story was just a myth. But it also showed that Pythagorean is perfectism and have extreme perfect tension. And because of this, everything's supposed to be perfect, he come up with another idea saying that the ground is a sphere. So his logic was like this. Well, first, he believed that the ground was three-dimensional, and then he believed that the sphere is also three-dimensional, and in three-dimensional world, the sphere is the perfect, so you don't just think that the ground is also a sphere. So after a long logic, his idea is the ground is a sphere because sphere is perfect in the three-dimensional world, and the ground is in the three-dimensional world, and everything's supposed to be perfect. What do you feel about that? Logic genius. So after he believed that the Earth is perfect and the Earth is a sphere, he come up with another idea that the universe is supposed to be perfect too. So he said that universe is like a big bowl, and inside the middle there was a fire, and everything just go around it. And since Pythagorean believed that number 10 is perfect, so there must be 10 planet orbit. And he only, even though he do not see 10 stars in the sky, he still make up one to make sure the number is perfect. Of course, this is not only from him. This is from the whole Pythagoreanism, the whole school. Later, this become a main chain, which is like inside ancient Greek philosophy, everything's supposed to be perfect. Okay, and later we come with Plato, Socrates' student. He also believed that everything's supposed to be perfect, and he also believed that only the universe shape is perfect is not enough. all the planets' orbitals supposed to be perfect. So he said that all the planet was moving in circle. But even though we know now, sometimes it was elliptical. But when he looked up in the sky, and he found out that actually the star was now moving in perfect order. This is different from all those famous people inside his area. So he was like, okay. So he bring up an idea that was like, this planet is definitely moving in perfect circle, but how is it moving? We need to, study it. So later it come out a group of people thinking about how could it be perfect, and one of them was called Odors, and he first believed that, and he created a model called, it's quite interesting than the Chinese book do not give okay, it's called the concentric ball superposition model. Let me show you a picture of it. I do not even try to explain it. Anyway, this is the geocentric theory version 1.0. Okay, let's go back to Aristotle. So he proved that the Earth was kind of a sphere. He found some evidence. The first evidence is in night. If you are walking to the North Star, you will see new stars in the front, and all the stars in your back will eventually go. The second of all is when in the ocean, when ships go near you, you will first see the shield, then you will see the boat's body. And the proof 3 is when we are doing lunar eclipse. The Earth's shadow on moon is kind of like a bowl shape. And all three of them prove that the Earth is a sphere. Okay, let's go back to concentric ball superposition model. You remember that there are 27 concentric ball, right? So Aristotle tried to add more. So he kind of add 22 more balls. And he created a new model called the Baidu translator said it was the crystal sphere system in the history of astronomy. And I don't think it's right. But anyway, we'll just ignore that name because I cannot find the English name of it. Anyway, this became the geocentric theory 2.0. His theory was no longer limited with what happened in the sky. It seems to started to understand the relationship between all the stars in the sky, and people just start going on trying to fix this geocentric theory to make things right. And there was like many people in the middle that I do not really want to talk about because I'm not really interested in astronomy. And anyway, we'll talk about another person called Callias Ptolemy. So he do 3 things Aristotle had done. So first, collect many previous theories and start like doing conclusion and add his own thought on the base of previous theories and see what's real happening and trying to prove and make the theory. So at last, he created a system of geocentric model. He also put his idea in a book called Almagest. It's Latin. I think it's Latin. Anyway, this is Geocentric 3.0 and the final version of Geocentric theory. And this book has been in the Western astronomy world for around thousands of years, and it's considered as the standard textbook. And later, after a group of scholars keep studying it, geocentric theory become improve. And it can predict astronomy version of planet very precise, even though we know it's wrong, but inside that time and that era, it's absolutely amazing. And guess what? I'm going to stop here because if I keep going on, it was going to drive me crazy. Like, The hard thing is not to find all this history. The hard thing is pronounce the student's name and the people who come out with it and the web of relationship. It's just crazy. Bye bye. And also compose so many information into one video without really focus on anyone take me a lot of time, especially when my textbook is in Mandarin.